neobanks fully established in the industry now. What is SunTec's envisioned future for the banking industry now that there's those kind of semi-tech but also banking partners in the system?
If you look at neobanks itself, why were they successful? They're successful simply because of the perspective that they are looking at it at customer first. Right? Essentially, that was the driver. If you look at each of the neobanks, the solution which they offer to the customers is very thin, is very, what I would call narrow, but they do it extremely well. Banks have, the traditional banks per se have an extremely wide range of offers to the customer, but they are all extremely inward looking. They talk a lot about customer centricity, however, they're not customer centric in the true sense of the term.
Being agile is a really big focus at CBA, especially right now. We've changed the way that we organize and our ways of working. But importantly, we're looking at our technology top to bottom. So, one of the great things about working for a large established institution is, we do everything. And we've got a great track record, and the intellectual capital inside the company is so deep that you know all of the risks and you know how to manage them. In that, we have technology that's been built over, 50 plus years.
Yeah.
And so what we're really looking at is unlocking greater agility by abstracting some of that technology. So that our architecture, becoming more loosely coupled, for example, and our ways of working, being able to work closer to the customer so we can deliver more rapidly. So it's a big topic. I wouldn't say we're quite there yet, but we've actually made tremendous progress in the past 2 years.
The establishment of these neobanks and what I would call the major tech players in the world now moving into banking. You hear of Apple, for example,
certainly.
or Google, if you hear. Apple for certainly you would have heard. Is essentially then the challenge is very simple. These players like Apple have been customer centric from quite a long time, I would call it. And that driver moving into banking is essentially will move the whole banking model itself fundamentally away from the way it is, what I would call isolated world, into something which is a key part of customers' lifecycle events. And that's essentially now enabled by technology, because when you're speaking of banking, its scale is what drives this, right? Now, how do you scale, but at the same time use this technology to, let's say, manage the data with the humongous amounts of data which is being generated, and still drive decisions which are customer-centric down to an individual customer, which is specific to you. You wouldn't like somebody being sold something which is, generic mass market to you, because your life cycle, even your life cycle stage is extremely different to what somebody else's is.
Yeah.
So that marrying, if I would want to call it, of a customer demand and a much more knowledgeable customer, because who has data at their fingertips, versus the perspective of new technology enablement, and what I would call it, emerging models. This together, the three parts together, essentially will then drive what happens in the future of banking. And technology is ever changing. What you can do today, 1 year down the line, you might be able to do something completely different. You speak about AI, you speak about virtual reality. Can you just imagine what it can bring into banking?
Yeah.